For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh, and today we are talking about the indie film Hunting Matthew Nichols. So this movie tells the story of a grieving sister who, after 20 years, hires a documentary crew in order to find her long-lost brother. Whether this is the first time that you are coming to the Victims and Villains channel, or you have been a faithful follower for years, and if you are the latter, thank you very much. And if you're the former, welcome. But I said all of that to say that I am not the hugest fan when it comes to found footage films. Not by any means. Now, of course, there are exceptions, like the Poughkeepsie tapes is one of my favorite films of all time. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but I truly love the Blair Witch Project as well as the Paranormal Activity films. And it's very evident here that the filmmakers are highly inspired by the Blair Witch Project for Hunting Matthew Nichols. This film even comes down to having its own mythology very akin to the Blair Witch Project. And I gotta say, this movie kind of feels like an amalgamation of both Blair Witch 1 and 2. I think this movie works about half the time. Maybe some of that is my own bias towards not really caring for the found footage documentary. I thought the first half of this movie was really compelling. The way that they really fleshed out the lore behind the legend, so to say, and kind of also comparing it with other cultures' folklore and really kind of the monsters of those folklore and really comparing and contrasting it to the antagonists they create for this film. But I felt like the back half of this movie just kind of completely falls apart. This really steady pacing of the first film just kind of goes out the window once a couple of characters make a couple of decisions that really kind of compromise them for the remainder of the film. And it's not really necessarily a spoiler. I'm trying to make that literally as vague as possible, but it's kind of this turning point where the film really kind of falls apart like sand. It's always really hard to gauge acting in found footage films because I know for a lot of us, myself included, when we make home movies or things that a lot make up the 75% of what found footage is, minus the horror aspects of it, we're showing our true authentic selves 9 times out of 10. And you're not acting, you're just kind of being natural. And I think that this film does really engage in that really well. I think that this film definitely feels like all of the conversations happen naturally. I really love that this film feels like a documentary, like you're not just following around these documentarians and the sister, but you're really engaging with this larger audience that really knew these two boys at the center of this in-universe documentary. I thought that was a really smart choice. It really brought a unique flair that I feel like you don't really see a whole lot in the found footage genre. I feel like the lore around this film and really the driving force that ultimately makes these two boys go missing is really a lot more terrifying in the faux documentary aspects of it than it is actually when it is explored in the final act, much like the Blair Witch Project. I think the pacing of this film is all over the place. I've kind of talked about some of my issues with the pacing, but this, for the most part, I think this pacing is just awkward as fuck. I think when you're embracing the documentary elements of this mockumentary, it really does have this beautiful pace that really engages you and really carves out and creates this curiosity about this mystery and this lore about what happened to these two boys. And the moment that you kind of get away from that and it kind of has this almost essentially Blair Witch Project parody aspect of it is really where this film loses itself. And much like some of the mid-tier Scream movies, ultimately becomes a parody of the thing that it is trying to satirize. With that said, I'm ready to run Hunting Matthew Nichols through our Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give Hunting Matthew Nichols a 2 out of 5. Overall, this film just felt like a missed opportunity. The mockumentary elements of this work really well. The building of the folklore works really well. It's really engaging. It's really fascinating. And they really just kind of fumble this movie in the back half of this movie. Not just the last act, but the back half of this movie. I think there is so much more things that this movie could have done, and it just completely feels like it runs out of ideas on how to tell its story before the credits even roll. Hunting Matthew Nichols is now in limited release via DIY, which is so exciting to see this and Iron Lung kind of take that plunge into bigger audiences that we keep getting to see within horror. So check your local listings. We have the show notes, links in the show notes below, along with our mental health resource library, more movie reviews like this, links to our podcast network, and the subscribe button. So until next time, remember to stay classy, keep it spooky.